Pam?
Okay, Commissioners Markham,
Here.
Middleton, Gershenson,
Here.
McGillivray,
Here.
Quarles,
Here.
Powell. I don't see Commissioner Powell.
Here.
Commissioner Long,
Here.
Cowell,
Here.
Zach.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I have my flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
to
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I need a motion to approve the minutes. Commissioner Gershenson, supported by Commissioner Markham. Any questions about the minutes, comments? Let the record reflect that Commissioner Powell is here as well. Seeing no questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. I need a motion for approval of the agenda. Commissioner McGillivray, supported by Commissioner Long. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any public comment?
Good morning. You currently have one caller on the line, but they wish not to speak in public comment.
Thank you, Andrea. I appreciate it. Public comment is closed. I need a motion for communications, please. Commissioner Quarles, supported by Commissioner McGillivray. Any discussion on communications? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Madam Chair, that can be a voice.
Okay, it's a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Say nay. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, there's no consent agenda today. We move into the regular agenda. Information technology, item number 1, information technology, second quarter 2020 development appropriation transfer. And we have Tim with us today. Want to give an overview or any comments, Mike?
Yes. Do you need a motion first? I'm sorry.
Thank you. I need a motion. Commissioner Long with Commissioner Cowell supporting.
I've had to start these and stop them mid-sentence because of that motion before, so I apologize. But
I appreciate the reminder.
So every quarter, and with some of the committee change structure, some of you may be more or less familiar with this process. But every quarter, the IT department brings in, because we are a proprietary fund, we bring in a resolution to facilitate the transfer of funds for development work and some of the support work that we have provided to the county departments. And this appropriation moves money from the general fund into the IT fund to handle the work that we performed in the previous quarter. So this is a quarterly process, and we bring this for your approval. And if you have any questions about the work that was performed, we can certainly answer that.
Do we have any questions? Commissioner Gershenson.
Yes, hi, Mike.
Good morning.
Since I am new on this committee, do you have the breakdown of the expenses anywhere that we can look at?
Yes, that's actually in the communication item.
Okay.
Master plan report.
Okay.
And we track every hour of work that we do in IT gets tracked in a time tracking system. Actually, we track down to the 15-minute increment. So all of the work we do for those projects is tracked at the individual project level, and then an hourly rate is applied to that, an hourly dollar rate, and that creates the bill for the quarter. And so all of those projects then are also part of our master planning process that the leadership groups, the courts leadership group, the land leadership group, the finance and admin group, they manage the priorities of our teams and the allocation of resources against those projects. So these are all pre-approved projects and work that we have done.
Thank you.
I have Commissioner Kowal next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm good. I don't have a question. Thank you.
So just my question that I have is this, I haven't seen this closely in a while. Are these more, do we have more expenses because of the COVID?
Yes, in this particular quarter, we do not. This represents the second quarter, which ended the end of March.
Okay.
So there's a limited amount of COVID hours. We are tracking all of our hours related to COVID expense, initiatives that we're working, whether that's websites or new applications, grants, grant funding that we're assisting with. Everything that we're doing that's COVID related is also tracked in the buckets, if you will, for COVID. And that is part of the weekly report that County Executive or Deputy Executive Carlson presents to the board. All of those hours are included in that report.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
On item number 1, Commissioners Markham,
Yes.
Middleton, Commissioner Middleton?
Yes.
Okay, I heard you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gershenson,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes. Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Kowal? Commissioner Kowal,
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries unanimously. Item number 2,
Thank you.
management and budget fiscal year 2020 second quarter financial forecast and budget amendments. Do I have a motion? Commissioner Markham, supported by Commissioner Kowal.
Good morning, it's Lynn. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Well-
I just want to make sure. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start out in your packet. Starting on PDF page 125 is the resolution for the second quarter forecast. I just want to first highlight that board staff did catch a typo on the third page of the resolution. The last whereas statement should be from January 2020 through March 2020 versus the 19 amount that, or the 2019 date that's reflected. The backup documentation does say 2020. So if that could be approved as accepting that as a typo to be resolved when it goes to the board, it would be correct. I will.
We'll do a friendly amendment, a typo. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I will move on. I will start off with the transmittal letter that's on PDF page 128 of your packet. So this is giving the results based on our meetings with the departments through second quarter and anticipating what is going to happen through the remainder of 2020. So at this point, the second quarter forecast is indicating that overall the favorability is approximately $16.2 million overall, and that is broken down by unfavorable revenue of around $2.6 million and favorable expenditures of about $18.8 million. I'm going to cover briefly on the revenue. section first, giving you that property tax revenue is favorable for 2020 based on the equalization report, which had an overall value increase of 4.46% compared to the budgeted 4.25%. So that equates to roughly $1.2 million. We are expecting, that 2020 levy is fixed, so that will not change as far as the revenue stream is concerned. We are obviously, though, looking at the collections that will result once that tax bill goes out in July. So collections could be lagging because of the economic state we're in. The next section on intergovernmental revenue, right now that has a favorability of $640,000 as of this report, and that's primarily the revenue sharing from the state of Michigan. We, at the last minute with 2020 budget, the state did go ahead and provide us the 1% increase. At that point, we hadn't recognized that. We're not anticipating at this point any changes from the revenue sharing distributions from the state. They have been continuing to make that distribution timely in accordance with their budget. The county's revenue sharing is statutory in nature. It's not tied to sales tax, like the constitutional portion that goes out to CVTs. But we are continuing to monitor to make sure if there are any adjustments that happen with the state, that we will reflect those. And obviously what's going to happen in the future years, we're waiting to see what the state's budget is going to be for future revenue sharing distributions. Now, with all that said, the report was finalized, and I think it was just before or just after the Memorial holiday, we received word from the state that they distributed excess distributions for the personal property tax loss distribution. We budget for 100% reimbursement. We cannot count on the excess distributions, but they did make their distributions twice a year for our general operating. Once in October, that reflects that this October would reflect any distributions for 2020, and then they make one once in May. In the May distribution is for any excess distribution that relates to the prior year. So the amount that we did receive right after the holiday was just shy of $1.2 million. So that will be reflected in the future forecast and will be reflected in year-end report as well. Charges for services, right now we're seeing unfavorability, and a lot of that is due to collection efforts because of the pandemic. The funding that we are receiving or that we have received from the federal government for the CARES Act does not cover revenue replacement or revenue loss. So we will continue to monitor those revenue streams, primarily coming in from the courts. You know, those fines and fees don't go away. It's a matter of timing on when they will be collected. And then we are seeing at this point, we actually have distributions, favorable distributions of investment income that has taken place through second quarter. Those are actual distributions that we have received. I will note that we do have a market adjustment that we have to make at the end of the fiscal year that could have an impact, and it's the market value as of September 30th that we will continue to watch. Moving on to PDF, or the overall summary report that will show the breakdown by department. Let me get the PDF. It's document page 16, and that will be PDF 143 of your packet. That is showing you the highlight for the general fund, general purpose areas, breaking down or showing you the revenue variance, and then the high level expenditure favorability of that $18.8 million. All departments you will see reflected in the right-hand column are still projected to be favorable through the remainder of the year. The only exception that we have is the sheriff's office. And that is primarily due to overtime and hazard pay as a result of the pandemic. Now, I will say that with the CARES Act funding and other revenue grant opportunities such as FEMA that the county will be utilizing, some of that unfavorability within the sheriff's office should be able to be covered from the hazard pay. And then
Lynn,
we will also,
Lynn, this is Tom Middleton. Will the hazard pay increase be sent to the townships that contract with us for services? Were you able to hear that?
yes, you asked if the hazard pay will be passed along to the contracted services with the CVTs. Is that correct?
I don't hear it on here.
Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you.
So, wait, I just want, Tom, you were on the screen in two different ways.
Yeah, we're gonna have the echo if Tom's
Yes,
gonna
I
have
wonder.
to choose whether he's on video or audio, otherwise we're gonna have the echo. Tom, we're gonna have to turn off your video, otherwise we're gonna have the echo.
Okay, how's that?
Yep,
We
perfect.
can hear you.
Okay, so
Okay,
that detail question I can follow up on, but it's my understanding the sheriff contracts are set through 2021. Those contracts have established rates that are billed based on their pay. So
okay,
those contracts are already established.
Helene,
Okay,
can I
thank
ask
you.
a question
Yeah,
before we
I
get
see
too far?
Commissioner Long, I see you.
All right, thank you. Just before we get too far then, on the revenues charges for services, so that was only second quarter. So third quarter, obviously, we're gonna be unfavorable, much worse, because everything was closed down for, longer months. Do you guys have a prediction of, how much that will be down?
So this forecast actually is forecasting out through the remainder of the year. So this is the projection at this point through the remainder of the year.
Okay, even though it's a report, so you're unfavorable 5 million with that charges for services then for the rest of the year?
Yeah, that is right.
Okay.
This is forecasting out. It's not just as of March 31st.
Okay, all right, so this is your prediction with the COVID. Okay, thank you.
And
Any
then I
other
will say,
question? Any other questions right now, or, okay, let's continue, Lynn, please.
and I will just add that with the county is established or has hazard pay, and it's impacting more than just the sheriff's office, obviously. It's impacting other 24/7 operations. That hazard pay, that additional pay is anticipated to be covered by the CARES Act. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be passed along, so to speak, if that is covered. Does that further address your question, Commissioner Middleton? Okay, I can't hear him, but just so that hazard pay as of to date, or I should say through pay ending May 22nd, is approximately $10 million. And again, that is anticipated to be eligible through the CARES Act. And we'll be reviewing all of those expenses for eligibility and applying them accordingly. Now, as far as the rest of the expenditures are concerned, you'll see that in the non-departmental appropriation section, there's about $10 million that is reported to be favorable through the remainder of the year. And if you look at PDF pages 184 and 185 of your packet, it provides the detail on how that $10 million, why that favorability is coming to be. And a lot of that has to do with the compensation study being on hold.
What the heck? Can we? Yes.
Okay, I'm getting some feedback here, so I'm not sure if that, okay. That $10 million of favorability, about $4.5 million is because of the compensation study being on hold, as well as $1,050,000 that's reflected on page PDF 184, that the county will not have any debt service for the ADA life safety bonds. Those bonds have not been issued at this point. There's also a reduction in the amount that's going to be provided for the capital improvement fund for 2020. So that also has favorability of about $3 million. So you'll see quite a bit of that $18.8 million in favorability is in the non-departmental section of the general fund. Now, getting back to the resolution, you'll see with the resolution, going back to PDF page 125, with the resolution, you'll see that there are several requests or many requests for budget amendments. Most of those budget amendments are rebalancing of items between either department IDs, programs, or line items within an operational budget. They do not impact the bottom line. There is one, however, if you look at PDF page 127 of your packet, at the top of the page, the first whereas, there is a budget amendment to accelerate $200,000 to transfer funding from non-departmental general fund to the radio communications fund. And that is for the radio replacement project. In 2021, there is a budget of $1,175,000 that was planned to replace radios within the jail and at Children's Village, because the 911 surcharge cannot cover those operations. Those are not deemed first responders. IT, with the radio project, replacement project, has requested that the $200,000 for Children's Village be accelerated to 2020 so that they can replace those radios sooner and utilize the old Children's Village radios for parts needed while they continue to roll out the project. So that is pretty much all of the only budget amendment that has an impact to the bottom line, and really for that, it's just a shift from 2021 to 2020. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Do I have any questions here? Lynn, I do have a question, not particularly with this, but we're moving close. It is June. Normally we are presented with the budget in July. Are we going to be seeing some items before that's presented, like maybe at the next finance committee? Are you going to talk about a 5-year budget plan? Where are we at with that?
Sean, are you on the call?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes. It is our intention. Be happy to get in front of the finance committee. Our goal is to get a budget over to the Board of Commissioners by that July 1st timeframe. That's what we're shooting for. That has been historical in the past, but and we're working through that right now. But I'll be happy to answer any questions, share some of the dialogue that Lynn and I have had with all of the departments over the last 30, 45 days in regards to the budget. And we will be working on a 5-year fiscal plan as well, just as has been the practice in the past. So thank you for the question.
You're welcome. So we'll talk about it at the next finance meeting in a couple of weeks. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Any other questions regarding this item? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
And item 2, Commissioners Middleton. Commissioner Middleton,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Coel,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Zach.
Yes,
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
motion carries. With that, we are on item number 3, Human Resources exempting Oakland County from Public Act 152 of 2011 for calendar year 2021. And I need a motion, please. Commissioner McGillivray, supported by Commissioner Quarles, and welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Before you, in your packet, the resolution's on page 212, and there's a cover memo on page 213. And so what this is PA 152 from the state of Michigan in 2011. The county there's a provision in it. Actually, there's 3 provisions in it. It goes to the Board of Commissioners every year for approval, because one of the options is for the county to opt out of the act. And we've elected to opt out every year since the Public Act was established. And there are several reasons why we elect to opt out. One is the county's medical benefits are self-insured. It works. The 2 options besides opt-out are to either require that the public employers make the employees pay at least 20% of the medical insurance premiums. But because we're self-insured, we don't have premiums. We have illustrative rates, which are kind of like what premiums would be if we had premiums. So it makes it a little more complicated for us to do that. The other option of the act is the state sets a limit on the annual premiums every year. And I list in the memo what the limits are. For 2021, the limits are roughly $7,000 for single person coverage for an annual amount, $14,000 for 2-person coverage, and $19,000 for family coverage. So we do look at this every year when the cap amounts come out, and we kind of compare, we do a calculation to see how close we are to the cap amount. And this year we'll be very close. We're only 1.1%. Our costs are 1.1% higher than the cap amount, which is basically a wash. So, but in order to opt out of this legislation, you can't just opt out once. You have to take it to the county executive, if you have a county executive, and the Board of Commissioners every single year if the county chooses to opt out. So this year we're requesting to opt out again. This is looking ahead for 2021. And in the meantime, we're also, every year we kind of take a look at the benefits and see where they're at and how we compare to other places. And April and I are working on reviewing the benefits again, like a thorough review of them, and seeing if there's any other, maybe some more creative ways where we could find some savings rather than increasing the amount of the employee contributions, if at all possible. So we'll be looking at that in the coming months, and if we have any changes that are recommended, those will come to the Board of Commissioners for their review and approval. So with that, I'd open it up to any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you, Jennifer. Any questions? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
On item number 3, Commissioners Gershenson,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Colwell,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Zach.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have
Motion.
9 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries unanimously. With that, we have item number 4, County Exec, authorize appropriation for Oakland County Economic Strategy Implementation. Do I have a motion, please? Commissioner Gershenson, supported by Commissioner Markham. And I want to welcome our Deputy County Exec, Sean Carlson.
Thank you. I did send a presentation. Is that available and online? Yes, thank you. Is there any way we can share that screen wider? Is that about as wide as it gets? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I just want to make sure that everybody understands what we're implementing here. And I thought it would be behoove the process and the understanding for me to take you through a little bit of a presentation. You know, when I was a young lieutenant, Colonel Denault used to share with me, you need to operate 1, 3, and 10. And that has really served me well over the last 60, 90 days. 1, 3, and 10 is with this pandemic going on. I know I've been in front of a lot of you in regards to things right in front of us in regards to the small business stabilization grant and trying to think 1 step ahead, 3 steps ahead, and 10 steps ahead. Today's presentation is really about thinking long-term, 10 steps ahead. And despite the pandemic hitting us and us having to respond to that, it's still important for us to keep our eye in regards to long-term. And Oakland County is a strong economic engine, and we're doing everything we can for our small businesses. But today's presentation is really about the long-term. So I want to share a few slides with you that were presented when we went to the rating agencies this past February, and then I'll go into a few other slides. So next slide, please. So as you are all aware, the University of Michigan, their economists do an annual economic outlook. And one of the quotes that they had in here was about Oakland County's strong overall performance, securely positioned now and for the future. Of course, this quote was made before the pandemic, but I believe it still is an important slide, and I believe that we do have a solid foundation, and we'll work through with the pandemic and making sure that we support our small businesses. Next slide. Next slide that I shared was in regards to the top employers in the county, and hopefully you can see this, but maybe you can't. Top employers, the top 20. Number 1 there in the ranking is Beaumont Health. The last one ranked is Huron Valley Schools, and we've got General Motors, Ascension Health, U.S. Postal Service. Oakland County is actually ranked number 7. This is in regards to employment. When we break down our top 20, it's important when you're looking at economic development, we look at 2 clusters, a local cluster and a traded cluster. Traded clusters are like manufacturing companies that are trading outside our region. Local clusters are like your bars, restaurants, retail stores, your hospitals, your school districts. There are all local clusters that are included in here. When we look at the top 20 represents 11% of our jobs in the county. And the trade-off there is 57% in the top 20 are local clusters, 43% are traded. The significance of that is the fact that we have a well-balanced economic portfolio in Oakland County. And it's important for us to ensure that we continue to keep it balanced. If we were to look at the other 89%, it's actually 55% is is traded clusters, and 45% is local clusters. So again, a good balanced economic engine in Oakland County. Next slide. The other slide we shared with the rating agencies was we looked at three important pillars for our economic engine here in Oakland County: businesses, community, and people. And you can, the highlight there on the first bullet under businesses is that in 2018, the GDP was $112 billion in the county, which represented 23% of the state's Michigan total GDP. 74 of the top 100 global OEM part suppliers have Oakland County locations. So you could see that we have a strong business pillar. Communities. The thing I would highlight is that last bullet there where under communities, where it talks about 32 unique downtowns with 24 communities involved at Main Street. Now, these are the folks that we've been trying to help with the stabilization grant and soon to come the recovery grant. These local downtown retail stores, small businesses, they are the ones that really helped Oakland County survive the Great Recession in 2010, 11, and 12. And they're getting impacted and hit really hard. Not to say that manufacturing is not, but it's the small businesses that kept us in the game during the Great Recession. It's important for us to stand up for them. The people, the third bullet there, and I'll get back to this later in the presentation, but I just want to highlight it. 75,000 plus engineers in Oakland County and the surrounding area, which is the highest concentration nationally in regards to engineers. This is a strong asset of ours, and it's very important for us to recognize that. Next slide. So as we had a couple of dates scheduled to provide some input, and hopefully we can get somewhere here in the next 30 to 45 days with the commissioners, with our consultants that have been helping us build this long-term strategic plan. We kicked off this strategic plan with stakeholders in January. We had a meeting on January 30th with our business and industry leaders. On the 29th, we sat down with workforce development leaders across the county. And then on the 31st of January, we sat down with city, villages, and townships to involve them in helping to build this plan as well. So that's important. Next slide. This next slide is something that in the economic development area, it's a very busy slide, but the bottom line is it's a cluster strategy. When you look at the far left, we're looking at products, talent, and services. That's what makes up an ecosystem. And when we look to the far right, we see growth and we see prosperity and competitiveness in these regions. What I want to talk about a little bit and get a little bit more involved is in the smart manufacturing, defense, robotics, customizable product manufacturing. Next slide. So this slide, again, I apologize. I don't know how blown up that is on your screen. It's very small on mine. But the second category box from the top in the gray, that's with grow production area, says build on our smart manufacturing heritage to build highly desired products outside the automotive sector. So we don't want to forget about who brought us to the dance, which is the automotive industry, which is strong, and mobility is the new catchphrase. And it's important for us to continue to hang on to that and build around that. But it's also important for us to diversify our portfolio. And so we need to be able to leverage our manufacturing companies and encourage them to go after defense and aerospace contracts. There's a huge opportunity there, and it's important for us in regards to our diversification strategy here in Oakland County. So how are we going to do that? Next slide. This slide here, so this is from the Department of Defense Office of Economic Adjustment. Those two circles down at the bottom, that's Michigan. So Michigan receives $5.4 billion in contract and payroll spending, 4.2 just in contract spend and 1.2. Now, as you know, the arsenal of democracy was kicked off by FDR. And at one time during World War II, the top 10 manufacturers, number 1 was GM, number 3 was Ford, and number 8 was Chrysler. Michigan was leading the way in regards to its defense manufacturing and capability. And the reason that is they had a strong manufacturing might, but they also had the prowess and the capability and the know-how to resolve problems and get it done. So as we moved away from World War II into Korea, Vietnam, and the others, GM and Ford and that focused on the automotive industry and let those defense components go. And other states have stepped up, but the state of Michigan has not, and we've fallen way back behind the pack. In this slide, if you look at the line just above us is Massachusetts, which is lower in population growth than us. We're a much larger size. And when you look at payroll, they have this same footprint as Michigan, meaning their active duty, their National Guard, their reserve, the payroll that they pay those individuals and civilians is the same as Michigan. But they do a hell of a lot better job of leveraging and getting defense contracts than the state of Michigan does. You can see they get 13.4 to our 4.2 billion. So if you go to the next slide, it's just a further indication of that. You can see that Michigan's ranking is 43 out of 50 states when we look at the state GDP compared to how much we're getting in defense. We're just barely scratching the surface there. It's time for us to pull up a chair and sit at the table and take our share of the pie. Now, we have made some progress in Michigan over the last couple of years. We went from ranked 32 up to 26, and we are now third in the Midwest when we were sixth in the Midwest. So Illinois and Ohio are up around 17 and 18 ranked nationally. So we're still back behind them, but we have made some gains. Next slide. So this is a breakdown of Michigan, and I'll get to Oakland County here in a second, but I want you to have the full flavor. You can see the top defense contractors. Not one of those top defense contractors is Oakland County. If they went further down on the list, we would pull in Williams International, which used to be located in the Walled Lake area, which is now located in Pontiac. But you'd also see Dynamic Computer Corporation, Barron Industries, Meritor, MTU America, Kamau, Axel Tech International, and some of the others if they went further down on the list. You can see by service, predominantly the contracts that our vendors are winning is in the Army. And that's by way of the fact that Tardak and TACOM are just down the road over in Macomb County. So there is an opportunity for us here in Oakland County. Next slide. When we look at from a regional perspective, we can see that Macomb is far out leading the way here, $2.4 billion. Wayne County recently received a big contract from LOC Performance Products and went ahead of Oakland County at $241 million. Now, there is a time lag in this report. The 2019 report will probably come out in another couple of months. So there's usually a year and a half on the time lag in regards to DoD OEA's report. So next slide. There's a new national defense strategy that's been deployed in DC. So there's more dollars and a bigger pie at the table. So there's an opportunity for Michigan and in particular Oakland County to pull up a seat. Next slide. Some of the areas that we would look at. Next slide. Thank you. We highlighted or put stars by the fact that these are some categories that we would identify and look at that would fit in the wheelhouse for our manufacturing companies here in Oakland County. Space and cyberspace, advanced autonomous systems, and forward force maneuver and posture resilience. Next slide. This is part of the Michigan Defense Center's Protect and Grow. There's some green stars there. In particular, what that says is cyber domain, there's $9.6 billion out there. Unmanned autonomous systems, 3.7. Air domain, 57 billion. Land domain, 14 billion. And then manufacturing readiness, all key components. So why else should we take a look at this? Michigan's dynamic, next slide, has changed. When you're going after defense contracts, it's all about DC. And when Senator Levin left as the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, we had a void in 2015. We didn't have one U.S. congressional individual in the state of Michigan on the Appropriations Committee or on the Defense Committee. And so at the Defense Center, we really rang the bell. That's where I came from, the Defense Center, prior to coming to Oakland County. And we put out a report in 2016 about protecting and growing this industry in the state of Michigan. Senator Peters is now on the Armed Services Committee and the Homeland Security. John Molinar was appointed to the Appropriations. Congressman Mitchell, who will be stepping down from his office, but was appointed and is on the Armed Services Committee. Congresswoman Slotkin was appointed to the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman Bergman, a retired 3-star general from the UP, was also appointed to the House Armed Services Committee, and Congresswoman Lawrence. So 2 of those members are Oakland County congressional folks that represent us on the House side. But we have in Michigan, no other time in the past history has had as many representatives representing the in the House on the Senate Armed Services Committee. We are only one of 3 states that have a member in the Senate and also in the House. And we are the 2nd largest contingency with 3 House members on the defense. And we're behind Texas, but tied with California. Tied with Texas, but California has more representation. So we've got both sides of the aisle now. So this is an opportunity for Oakland County to kind of lead in and change that $214 million in increase. Next slide. So part of thinking ahead and thinking of the long-term strategy is also making sure that we're growing in the emerging sectors. And one of those emerging sectors that needs to be for Oakland County as we move ahead has to be the defense industry. And when I say the defense industry, I'm also including the Homeland Security as a part of that. So with this $1 million, it's our intention to build the manufacturing readiness program in Oakland County. And commit $250,000 for that. Continue to partner with Automation Alley, Detroit Regional Partnership, the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center, and Oakland University and the University of Michigan. Also develop opportunity identification and pursue strategies for Oakland manufacturing companies. You know, there's 2 barriers of entry for small companies that doing business with the Department of Defense. Number 1 is finding that bid. Finding the right bid to go after. We want to make sure people are pursuing, not chasing. And number 2 is having a support there to help people write that contract and not be scared by the awesome solicitation that the Department of Defense will have you respond to. So those are resources that we are looking at deploying, and then also looking to leverage grants. You know, Oakland County, I knocked on Oakland County's door when I was the executive director for the Michigan Defense Center, trying to give $100,000, $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 to Oakland County. Never took me up on that offer. Macomb County certainly did leverage. You can see where their numbers are now because of the partnership that we had at the Defense Center with Macomb County. But it's time for Oakland County to pull up a chair in the state of Michigan. And this is a strong economy here in Michigan, in Oakland County. As I mentioned earlier, 75,000 plus engineers. There's an opportunity for us to get our fair share of the DoD contracts, and at the same time, diversify our ecosystem here in Oakland County. Of course, all of these contractual services will be competitively bid too. So I just wanted to make sure that you didn't just have the resolution and the county executive office was just asking for $1 million. I wanted you to know why and why it's important, and it's critical to our building our future ecosystem. So I'll be happy to take any questions. Sorry for the long presentation.
No, thank you for the explanation. And do I have any questions? Commissioner Kowal.
Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for such a thorough presentation, Sean. I really appreciate that. And just in the state of Michigan in general, we're always talking about diversifying our economy when things are bad. And then when the economy gets good again, we go back to business as usual. So yeah, I do think that this is necessary. And I was kind of having questions about the need to spend money about something that we kind of already know what to do in a way. But I do recognize the fact that when you're dealing with this particular industry and dealing with the federal government, it's a whole different culture. It's a whole different, you know, when we went into the recession, the Great Recession, we were trying to work with companies to get them, automotive suppliers, to get them to switch over to the defense, whatever, you know, to make parts for Army, Navy, whatever. And they would easily get discouraged by all the process and everything they had to go through. It was like, you know, learning a whole new world. So I think that this is good to be able to help people to understand how this works and to give them a leg up to be able to, you know, achieve these goals, and to otherwise they probably be kind of floundering, like you said, chasing, not pursuing. So I guess maybe you've laid it out pretty good. I was thinking, I was going to say, well, with all your experience in it, why do we need to spend more money? But you can elaborate on that if you want to. That's it.
Yeah, it's a big lift, but you know, we need to think about multiplying our current situation versus adding. And I certainly could roll up my sleeves and go down there and do the everyday work, but trying to stay at the strategic level here. And I think the key is really building a good plan and having some people that can every day be on this, because that's what it's going to take in order for us to move this forward. We should be targeting to try to be at 1.5 billion by 2025. And that's a stretch goal, but that's doable with a level of commitment. And we're having conversations right now with the University of Michigan and LIFT in regards to a DoD grant that's coming out to be at the center of that in regards to defense manufacturing readiness. So all of these things will be important in helping us to help diversify and make defense and aerospace a bigger part of our portfolio. It's in our heritage. I mean, the cradle of arsenal of democracy was born here in Michigan. We just let it get away from us. And the other states came in and swooped in and took it away. It's time for us to take it back. And it won't happen unless Oakland County is part of the mix.
Are you done, Commissioner Cole? I have recognized Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Sean, for the very well-prepared presentation. I would suggest, because if you just look at the resolution, like Commissioner Kowal says, and you have the expertise and you're wondering why do we need to fund the million, but your explanation helped a lot. And I would just maybe recommend Chairman Zach tell the rest of the board to watch his finance, at least on the presentation before the board meeting. That was very helpful in an explanation where the money's going to and stuff. So if we can get that out to the rest of the commissioners before the board meeting, that would be great. Or Sean, just say, hey, watch finance from this section, of your presentation, because that was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great suggestion. Commissioner Middleton.
Yeah, Sean, thanks. Really a good presentation. It was very helpful. It makes it easier to vote for with that presentation. But I got a question, probably for, not for now, but for down the road a ways. The second slide you showed, I think, was the top 20 employers in the state, in Oakland County. Number 1, 3, 4, and 9 are all hospitals. What are we going to do to help get those hospitals back on track to be up at the number of employees that they were before the epidemic happened?
Yeah, there are a lot of hospitals here. Thank you for the question. We've got Beaumont Health at 1, Henry Ford 4, Ascension Health, Trinity Health. I think there's McLaren's in there as well. So we'll talk with workforce development. I believe that they are calling some of those employees back. A lot of the nurses and stuff that were laid off initially had to do with more of those. Drawing a blank on the word I'm looking for, elective surgeries and procedures. And so that was one of the reasons why there was some layoffs that took place. I believe that's all coming back online, but I'll verify that, Commissioner Middleton, in regards to where they're at.
Okay, thank you. That's all I need, Helene.
Any other questions? Commissioner McGilvray.
Thank you. Sean, I just want to thank you for a great presentation. Oakland County's in good hands with you leading the way, and we certainly do appreciate it. So thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
On item number 4, Commissioners McGillivray,
Yes?
Quarles,
Yes.
Powell, Commissioner Powell,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Sean. And with that, we're moving into item number 5, which
Thank you.
is PEG versus County of Oakland. And at this point, we need a motion to enter into closed session to consult with our attorney on pending location.
So moved.
Commissioner Kowal, supported by Commissioner McGilvray. And I need a roll call vote to close this meeting.
Okay, to close the meeting, Commissioners Quarles,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Cowell,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Zach.
Yes.
We have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Now, Pam, Okay. Okay, I need a motion to move back into open session, please.
No, we don't need a, we're already in open session. You just a
We're in,
motion.
okay.
Let's discuss.
So now I need a roll call vote. To proceed as authorized in accordance with the directives discussed in closed session.
Need a motion?
I need a motion for that. Okay, Commissioner McGilvray, supported by Commissioner Long. Okay, and I need a roll call vote.
Okay, on item number 5, Commissioners Powell,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Zach.
Yes,
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas and 0 nays.
motion carries, and thank you, Denise, everyone. Any other business to come before the Finance Committee? Seeing none, I will adjourn the meeting at roughly 10:50.